Hey guys, thank you for joining us today here on Pressing Towards the Mark. There was a user question that came in concerning my testimony of how I found my wife and how I ended up getting married. And the question specifically is, for me, what was my source of trust and what was the promise? And my response to this question is I want to answer it in like 4 or 5 parts. Okay, the first one, I know what I was looking for. I know what God wanted for me. So I had that maturity to wait on the person that I know God wanted me to marry, and I know they had to meet a list of qualifications. For those of you that do not know, I was single for 13 and a half years, waiting for God to put me with the woman that I was to marry. I know that the person had to be a Christian. So biblically speaking, the person that that I knew I had to marry was to be a Christian. And these should apply to you as well. So the person has to be a Christian. And if they're not a believer, then we're not to be in a relationship or intimately involved with that person in either way, and that person may drag you away from the faith. So you want to stay away from anybody that is not a Christian. Second of all, people may be a Christian, but they may not be at your level, or you may not be equally yoked. So as far as Christian maturity, comes in, the person that you're considering to be your spouse, they need to be a Christian, but they also need to have the same level of maturity. They can't be a lukewarm Christian, and neither can you. Okay, so the third point. The person must know their God-given purpose, and this also applies to you as well. But if the person that you're considering to be your spouse does not know their purpose, how do you know if your God-given purpose will mesh with their purpose? So because if their purpose is different from your purpose, one or both of you is going to be pulled out of God's will. And if you are pulled out of God's will, then you may not experience the blessings and the joy as somebody who has the same purpose that you have. There have been times in my life that I've come across somebody else who was a Christian, who was equally yoked, and was on my level and knew their God-given purpose, but because their purpose was too far away from my purpose, it did not mesh well, and I knew that that person was not meant for me. The person was meant for somebody else. And I actually had somewhat of a litmus test for a potential spouse. And my question was, would you get in a car with me and us drive to Costa Rica to do ministry? And you know that the Central and South America has some really rough spots, and that's not necessarily a safe thing to do. And when one response that I've gotten before was, maybe that's not such a good idea. But my wife now said, yes, if God would call me to do that, I'd be willing. Counting the cost, knowing that it would be dangerous, but still would be willing. So after all of this criteria was met, I knew I did not want to let the opportunity slip by. So, I shared, a vision with my wife that God had given me about us, both reaching for her hand, but only one of us was reaching for her hand at the same time. It may not make a lot of sense, but anyway, I shared this, with my now wife, and she said she was going to take it, and she prayed about it. And the next morning, she prayed about it, and she asked God if I was to be her husband, and God said yes. So we were literally betrothed overnight. We both had reservations about, is this really God? Is this, do we really want to get married to each other? We both, saw some things in each other we didn't necessarily, like initially. We were both scared, but we trusted God, and I placed my faith in Him. All of these qualities were met. I had no problem, getting in my car that people were saying that was prone to break down, which, if the undercarriage, got wet, it sure could sometimes, and, drive to, where my wife lived, which was, Michigan at the time, all the way from North Carolina. And when I got there, I was still scared, and you can take this for what it's worth, but God, He gave me a sign and wonder, and to confirm what He was doing. We went to a date at the mall there, and we both was looking into a mirror, and we both stared there. In the matter of about a minute or so, our eyes switched colors. My eye color turned into her eye color, and her eye color to my eye color, which really freaked me out. I kid you not, it freaked me out, and I jumped and I fell backwards, and I just knew, God, was in this. And it was a matter of, a couple of weeks, we got married, and God confirmed it even further by sending the wasp to give us a marriage gift. The wasp brought pieces of their nest and laid it down, and at first Jamie took it and just threw it to the side, and the wasp went and picked it up and brought it back again. I want to say that it's really not easy waiting on God for the spouse that He has for you, but if you are willing to wait and you are willing to take these principles and apply it to your life, God will bless you with the spouse that He wants you to have, if you have that desire. Some people desire not to have a spouse, and that's fine. There's people that's called to be single, and that's fine. But if you have a desire for a spouse, I do believe God will prepare that person for you. If you are willing to wait, you're willing to press into God. You must be willing to give it all up. Give up everything that you hold to, your home, your comfort. You've got to be willing to give it all to God, and He will show you who He has planned and picked out for you. Well, God bless y'all. Just take care, and just if you have any questions or comments, you can just drop it down below the video, and we'll try to get back with you and answer any questions that you may have. And we'll see you next time on Pressing Towards the Mark.